chapter 1141 on the day of the Lakers One Piece collab, which is huge. The promotional art is incredible. I've been trying to get into basketball for so long, but I live in the UK and the timing is really unforgiving. I just can't stay awake until 3 a.m. to watch the game. But also, for anyone who cares, I should say, I haven't really been following a team in the NBA, but rather I've just been following Luka Doncic's career, and he is my favorite player because he came up with Real Madrid in the EuroLeague, and Real Madrid is the team I support in football, so you know, by association basically it's how things worked out. And it is perfect timing, not only with his trade to the Lakers recently, but also the date of this collab today is the 28th of February, but it's also his birthday today, so it's like all the planets are aligning with him and the Lakers, and obviously One Piece chapter 1141. The cover story has Who's Who's subordinates punching page 1, so that was a big mistake from them. Remember Ulti's words from the last chapter? She was very specific that if anything were to happen to him, and I quote, she would hunt Who's Who to the depths of hell and beat him to death, so I look forward to seeing that very soon. And I do think she's capable of doing it. Well, she would have been if she hadn't been cut several times from having knives thrown at her. But once again, Yamato and Co are nowhere to be seen, so either they've been watching this entire time, meaning they watched Ulti and page 1 get dragged in, they watched Ulti get strung up to the wheel for Who's Who to mess with her, and they may still be watching now, or they've infiltrated for some big break in Tama can get some good training in while Yamato deals with the main threats, taking out Who's Who and deciding what to do with the siblings, to kind of link back to my crackpot idea of those two may be following Yamato, who will be their savior here and who they may also view as Kaido's successor, which I know seems like a stretch. With Ulti's obsession with her brother, if Yamato were to save him, how would she react? With her personality, maybe she would be grateful and follow Yamato, or, and this is probably a lot more likely, she will somehow shift the blame for everything that's happened here onto Yamato, because unironically that is very consistent with her character. We open with Nami and Road, who are taking the giant guards back to the village, so they are splitting up from Luffy and Zoro, which is understandable because with what they're planning to do and by the end of the chapter succeed in doing, there's no reason for Nami to be there and put herself in unnecessary danger. And as for Road, with him now being the newly appointed slave number 3, he is obviously going to follow along with her, but I also don't think Luffy and Zoro would have been willing to babysit him if he had decided to stay behind with them. And now back with Ripley and Frankie touring the Adam Tree, where one of its branches, a really big one, had to be cut off because lightning struck a village called Haugen that was built on the branch. So this is the first village we've learned about outside of the main western village, and Ripley does talk about the history of the tree and basically says giants have lived on all parts of it, so each part of the tree has its own history. The first connection I've made is to the mural, which showed a ship that looked pretty much identical to the Arc Maxim shooting a lightning bolt at the tree. From the way Ripley is talking, I would say she was alive when this incident with the branch happened, but this lightning, there's a big chance that it's more than just simple lightning. And once again, we return to the topic of Enel, who was discussed when the mural was revealed, so by extension it seems appropriate to bring him up here as well, although there's nothing really more to say. Lightning equals Enel. And as for the branch itself, let's say this was recent, it could explain how the wood circulated in the One Piece black market to be used for pirate ships like the Sunny or the Oro Jackson. Maybe that broken branch will come into play again near the end of the arc. Maybe Frankie will give the Sunny some upgrades. There's also one other pirate who's recently went MIA, and that guy needs to build a new ship for himself and whatever crew he has left. She also mentions that once a branch catches fire, it won't go out, which I never really thought about. The whole thing, while it's massive, it's still a tree, so it's essentially infinite fuel for a fire. And she says lightning and fire are elbaf's only weaknesses, and pushing Enel to the side here, I think we have two very good representatives for each of those two things. Luffy as the sun god for fire, and as for lightning, we'll get to that at the end of the chapter. Then to Nami and Road, who have returned to the party where Usopp is drunk and he does his best Todo impersonation and asks Yarul what his type in women is, and his response is older women. Here's the thing, he's the oldest giant in the world. There is no such thing as an older woman for him. The only beings I can think of off the top of my head who are legitimately older than he is are 5 immortal old guys and an elephant. Although I don't think Yarul swings in either of those directions. His only saving grace at the moment is Emu because their gender is still unconfirmed, so why not? Let's have Yarul shoot his shot with the ruler of the the entire world. I wonder if he ever gets sad about there not being any older women for him now. If anyone's seen The Lord of the Rings with the Ents who lost the Ent wives and they're all sad about it, I'm picturing Jarl in a similar situation where he mourns the absence of older women. Or it could just be older women biologically, like if he ever met Dr. Kureha, how would he react to that? Maybe that's why he didn't kill Big Mom all those years ago, because he saw Mother Carmel in front of him who was an older woman. No, of course not, obviously that's not the reason why. One Piece is the only story that can get me to discuss a senile old man's preferences in women. And the fact that Usopp slapped the sword in his head, sober Usopp would never have done that, but also him doing so probably wiped another week's worth of memories from Jarl's mind. Usopp's the life of the party here, really. He's even talking back to Dory, and remember, he thinks of Dory and Broggy as his masters, so I'd say that's a pretty big deal. He's talking about pulling out Excalibur. What if he actually did it? I mean, is there a reason why he hasn't taken the sword out? Because it's been 14 years since the incident. Jarl will die of blood loss if the sword was ever removed, but let's ignore that for the sake of the theory. Plus, we have Chopper on the island. He could help. Him and Gerd could patch Jarl right up. Maybe the sword holds a clue to the truth, because it has been noted that it's the very same sword that Harald was posing with in that picture in the castle. So maybe his memory of the day is fuzzy and hazy and disjointed because of it being rammed through his skull. So once it's removed, he may reveal Harald's true nature. And there's the whole thing about the village elders not agreeing with his ideas of peace, and yet Elder Jarl has only had good words to say about him so far. And ultimately, he is the only giant who is capable of exonerating Loki. With the way the arc's gone so far, it's been incredible, like so unimaginably good, and the main focus has been on Luffy and Loki, and for good reason, but I am still hoping for some Usopp focus. I appreciate that whenever he's on page, the point is made that coming here was his dream, but obviously I want more than that for him, some kind of development, and if it doesn't happen, then I would say it would be a miss. And leave it to Sanji to notice Gerd isn't at the party, who from my perspective is an older woman, so maybe in some ways I can relate to Jarl. Anyway, she's treating the giant guards who got taken out in the castle, since she is the doctor of the new giant warrior pirates, and it was Road who brought them back after he and Nami returned from the castle, only for him to get a beating, even though he actually did a good deed by bringing them back, because Gerd is still suspicious of him. I guess he is hiding the truth here, but we know the reason why he's doing it, so Road truly is innocent in this situation. Honestly, I did not expect to like Road's place in the arc this much, how he's basically a slave or a punching bag for everyone else, specifically Nami and Gerd, which makes sense because of his tendencies. He's still a creep, but I like how that part of his character is being handled, where he is still clearly a weirdo, but the two girls, Nami and Gerd, are well aware of how to deal with him, so it's not really an issue. Plus, he's a masochist, which is funny. Really funny. And as Gerd walks away from the party, a certain black-leg Sanji is following close behind. And out of the group who went to the castle, the other two, Luffy and Zoro, have reached the underworld and to Loki's location. They reach him on the verge of death, pretty much. The Cerberus attack from Shamrock did a number on him. The discussion continues regarding whether it's a good idea to free him or not. From my point of view, as soon as Gabon handed over the key to them last chapter, there was no doubt in my mind that he should be freed. Well, obviously I've always thought that he should be freed from the very moment he was introduced, but Gabon handing over the key so casually in the end makes it seem like Loki's freedom would work out in our favor in the end. Zoro even goes as far as kicking his open wounds. Now that's just a dick move. I mean, I understand because you've only heard very bad things about him, but come on. In all seriousness though, it's obvious why Zoro's doing this, and him challenging Luffy's decisions is nothing out of the ordinary. We've seen it many times before. But Zoro also brings up the topic of Loki's fate here, which is interesting because we know Loki himself puts a lot of weight in that idea of fate, what is meant to be, and they do eventually agree to free him under the condition that one of his ankle chains remains on. He also says that he's as big as Oz, and now that he has said that, I really hope that's the case, because there's so much potential for panels of him just towering over everyone and everything. It would be so good, and it has to be Zoro to free him because Luffy is also being affected by the Sea Prism Stone. So the King of Hell freeing a prisoner from the underworld, there's something poetic there, and with the state that he's in, they need a doctor, but Chopper in the Owl Library is way too far away, but there's no need to worry because pretty soon a warrior doctor giantess will rain down from the sky. Luffy also wants to gather meat for Loki's recovery, and they are surrounded by the defeated giant animals, but they are off the menu. Understandably, Luffy had some serious bonding time with them. May have only lasted a few minutes, but it was effective. So now turning our attention upwards, and like I said, Hirudin and the rest of his crew are falling from the sky in a ship down to Loki's location to try and convince Luffy and Zoro not to free him. So Road did end up telling Gerd what happened. Honestly, knowing him, he probably thought the beating was a reward for telling the truth. And Sanji is there falling with them, so his lady radar didn't manage to locate Gerd, and he's more concerned about her safety than his own. What a gentleman. I wonder where else I've seen another group of characters falling from the sky on a ship to a place where someone was chained up. Marineford, obviously. Luffy falling from the sky to free his brother Ace, only this time it's Hirudin falling from the sky to stop his brother Loki from being freed. Luffy balloons up massively to try and break their fall. They were in such a panic they didn't even consider the consequences of falling thousands of meters down. Hirudin, you are not Kaido, you would have died. That's not to say they landed safely though, because they didn't. Apart from Sanji and Gerd, who bounce out of the boat, the rest of them trampoline off of Luffy, and they do get banged up in the process. And now that Sanji is here, you know what that means. Him, Zoro, Luffy, the monster trio, the real monster trio, no one else, just the three of them, soon to be side by side in battle. Possibly, maybe. We have Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Hirudin and the others facing down Loki. Remember his thoughts of killing Luffy first once he was free? Zoro said they'd cut him down if he was lying or tricking them. How about Hirudin, who has more reason to hate him than anyone else in the world? I wouldn't mind Hirudin getting a power spike here, but how would that conversation go? And this panel is already putting into perspective how big Loki is. He's chained in a seated position on the floor, yet he's still taller than any of the other giants, any of Hirudin's crew. Hirudin's words do paint Loki out to have always been a bad person. He talks about how he's known him since he was a kid. Hirudin's 18 years older than his half-brother, I think. Well, he's definitely older, so he's known Loki his entire life. He's trying his absolute hardest to get his point across. He wants to make 100% sure that Luffy and Zoro understand what kind of person he is, or at least what kind of person everyone thinks he is. But from the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like Hirudin's ever had a single good experience with Loki. But they all arrive too late since Loki's chains have been unlocked, and the accursed prince after 6 years is finally free. And just look at this. Loki, who was supposed to be in a near-death state, is getting up and is right in front of Luffy, and it looks like the ancient giant's blood runs thick in his veins because he is huge. Him just getting up has Hirudin's crew pissing themselves in fear. Even Luffy is confused, like he shouldn't be able to get up given the state he was in. Is that a testament to his willpower to force himself up? Does it have anything to do with his devil fruit abilities now that the sea prism stone chains are off? I don't know, but this freak of nature is smiling with his eyes in shadow and the blood dripping down his face. Absolute cinema. Hirudin, I say you just give up, because you may get a lot stronger in the future, but right now you are this close from getting folded by your younger brother. And he grabs the hammer. What the hell is the hammer capable of? Or what is Loki capable of with the hammer that him grabbing it has put Hirudin in this state? He calls it Ragnir, so the One Piece equivalent of Mjolnir. But back to what Ripley was saying about the two weaknesses of elbaf, and lightning being one of them. The Mjolnir that everyone's familiar with can channel and conjure lightning, so what if Loki can do the same with his hammer Ragnir? And that would also mean together him and Luffy each represent elbaf's greatest weaknesses. He still has one chain around his ankle, so his strength is still actively being suppressed, yet he's still moving. What if he breaks out of that final chain himself? Have we seen anyone break Sea Prism Stone in the story at all? I don't think so. Would Loki even care about trying to convince the rest of the country about what actually happened in the castle 14 years ago? Does he bother telling them about his father's connections with the world government? Because I assume he knows about it. After 14 years of hating him and despising him, he might think that he would just be wasting his breath because they won't believe him anyway. We still haven't got any new information on Hirudin's mother, whether she's still about or not, whether she died or left the country or something. How does she factor into this? if she does at all. So how does this go down? There's Mosa as well, the person who was talking to Loki on the transponder snail. Is Loki going to seek them out first? Is Mosa even on elbaf? He has his hammer, he has his devil fruit abilities. Yes, he is already massively beaten up, and I know that there is a chance, I'm thinking there's a chance that he just passes out on the spot after using his remaining strength to flex his aura, but let's say that doesn't happen. I want to see a fight. He could easily decimate Hyrudin and his crew, and I want to see him face off against the monster trio. Obviously, against all three of them, it's not a fight he can win, but that just makes it the perfect opportunity for him to showcase his strength. He has Conqueror's Haki 1000%, advanced Conquerors as well. We still haven't been given an explanation for why his eyes are bandaged up, unless it's just a character design choice on Oda's part. I was talking about Gabon's reaction to Gear 5 last week. How the heck will Loki react to seeing Gear 5, to seeing the all-white form? Because he seems pretty certain that he himself is the sun god, so what happens when two sun gods collide?